America owes $39.7 trillion. That is not a typo, that's the national debt. And today we're finding out who America actually owes it to. Quick spoiler, it's mostly not who you think, and one of the lenders is going to be very awkward. Quick scale check. Stack 39 trillion in $100 bills and you get a tower about 43,000 kilometers tall. That's past most satellites. Somewhere up there, a GPS satellite is dodging America's receipts. This is the pile we're explaining today. Split the tab evenly and every single American owes about $116,000. That includes babies. Imagine being 3 hours old, no job, no savings, and you already owe 6 figures. Welcome to Earth, kid. Here's your invoice. And it's not sitting still. The government spends more than it collects every single year, so the pile grows by roughly $60,000 a second. By the time this video ends, America will have borrowed another $40 million or so. Thanks for watching, it's been expensive. So who is the debt collector here? China? Aliens? One extremely patient bank in Switzerland? Time to open America's IOU drawer. And the first IOU on the pile is going to feel like a plot twist, because America's biggest lender is America. Here's the first split. About $7.6 trillion, $1.05, is money the government owes itself. The other $31 trillion or so is held by actual investors, at home and abroad. Yes, you can owe yourself money. Governments are built different. How do you owe yourself? Like this. Programs like Social Security collected more cash than they needed for years. Congress borrowed the spare and left an IOU in the jar. Left pocket owes right pocket. The jar has been very polite about it. So far. The single biggest self-IOU lives in the Social Security Trust Fund, about $2.4 trillion. That is grandma's retirement money, lent to the government, by the government. When those ES get cashed in, the money has to come from somewhere. Remember that for later. Now the other $31 trillion. This part gets sold in public auctions as Treasury securities, the most boring product on planet Earth, and somehow also the most popular. Picture a yard sale where Wall Street, Japan, and your pension fund all show up with moving trucks. Quick menu, because these names show up everywhere. T-bills mature in weeks to a year. Treasury notes, 2 to 10 years. Treasury bonds, up to 30. Every one of them is just America saying trust me, but with paperwork. And the entire planet keeps saying yes. So who's buying? Inside America, the Federal Reserve, mutual funds, banks, pension funds, insurance companies, state and local governments, and regular people holding savings bonds. Stack those up and most of the national debt is owned by Americans. The call is coming from inside the house. Yes, the Federal Reserve, the institution that prints dollars, owns trillions of America's ES. It bought them to steady the economy in 2008 and 2020. Lending yourself lunch money using your own photocopier, legal, genuinely useful in a crisis, and still slightly cursed. And here's your plot twist. If you have a 401k, a pension, or a boring bond fund, you personally own a slice of the national debt. You are the debt collector. Next time someone says America owes trillions, you may legally whisper, some of that is mine. Shout out to the OG lender, Grandma and her paper savings bonds. For decades, Americans gifted these at birthdays, which means generations of kids were handed a tiny piece of the national debt instead of a toy. And honestly, the bond usually outperformed the toy. Okay, the foreigners. All countries combined hold about $9.2 trillion, roughly 31% of the publicly held debt. That is a lot of money. It is also nowhere near a majority. The whole America is owned by foreigners thing. Mostly vibes. And the number one foreign lender is not China. It's Japan, holding about $1.2 trillion of treasuries. Japan has quietly been America's biggest lender for years, collecting interest and saying absolutely nothing about it. The most polite creditor in financial history. Number 2 is the United Kingdom at around $900 billion. A chunk of that is really global money flowing through London's banks, because London is finance's connecting airport. The UK, butler to the world's cash, quietly holding America's coat since forever. And China? About 700 billion, and it's been shrinking for a decade. That works out to under 2% of the total debt. So no, China cannot call in a loan and repossess Ohio. Treasuries don't even work like that. Nobody can demand early repayment. Why does the whole planet keep lending America money? Because treasuries are the world's safety blanket. When anything scary happens anywhere, money runs to the safest thing it knows, dollars, backed by the biggest economy on earth. It's the least uncomfortable couch in the world, and everyone knows the address. So let's total the drawer. Government trust funds, the Fed, American banks, funds, pensions and savers, roughly 3/4 of the national debt is owed to Americans, one way or another. The scary foreign monster in the closet is mostly just us. Holding a mirror. How did the pile get this tall? 1980, under 1 trillion. 2000, 5.7. Then the 2008 crisis hit and borrowing took off. Then COVID arrived and the printer went absolutely feral. Now we're at 39.7 trillion, and the line only knows one direction. Fun fact, America has been deeper in debt before, relative to its economy. World War II pushed debt past the size of GDP. But here's the difference, back then, the war ended, spending stopped, and the debt shrank for decades. This time there's no single bill to stop paying. And yes, there was one shining moment. In the late 90s America ran a surplus, actual extra money, and people seriously debated paying the whole debt off. Economists wrote papers about a world with no treasuries. Then the 2000s happened. Spoiler, they did not pay it off. The engine underneath is painfully simple. Washington collects about 5 trillion a year and spends about 7. That yearly gap is the deficit, and deficits stack into debt. The seesaw hasn't balanced since 2001, and neither party seems interested in sitting on the boring side. Wars, tax cuts, a financial crisis, stimulus checks, more tax cuts, a pandemic, chip subsidies, every emergency added a layer, and no Congress has ever unadded a layer. The national debt is a lasagna of promises. Delicious politically. Heavy financially. Now the part that actually hurts. This year, America pays about $1 trillion in interest. Not paying the debt down. Not buying anything. Just the minimum payment on the credit card. $1 trillion, gone, before a single road, school, or aircraft carrier gets funded. For scale, the interest bill is now bigger than the entire military budget. $1 trillion on interest versus about $947 billion on defense. That's $88 billion a month. America's most expensive subscription, it auto-renews, and there is no customer support number. There's also a treadmill nobody mentions. Old debt constantly matures and has to be reborrowed at today's rates. Trillions get rolled over every year. Imagine refinancing your mortgage annually, forever, and hoping the bank stays in a good mood. That's the Treasury's cardio routine. And when you borrow new money partly to pay interest on old money, that has a name, the doom loop. Every credit card owner knows this staircase personally. America is on it too, just in a nicer suit, whistling, insisting everything is fine. It might be. But that's the staircase. The trajectory, debt held by the public is about the size of the whole US economy right now, and the Budget Office projects 120% of GDP by 2036. That would blow past the record set in 1946, right after fighting an actual world war. This time, peacetime. Add up the next decade and the Budget Office expects $16.2 trillion in interest payments alone. $16 trillion that buys no roads, no schools, no science, no anything. It's just the meter running on decisions already made. That's the real cost of the pile. The rating agencies noticed. America has been downgraded from the perfect AAA by all three major agencies now, most recently Moody's. It's like the world's best student getting a minus on the report card. Still top of the class. But the teachers are writing comments. So is this a crisis? Economists genuinely split into two camps. Camp 1, we owe it mostly to ourselves, in a currency we print, with the world begging to lend us more. Relax. Camp 2 points silently at the trillion-dollar interest bill and breathes into a paper bag. Can't America just print the money and pay it off? Technically the printer exists. But flood the world with fresh dollars to erase 40 trillion and you don't erase the debt, you erase the dollar's value. That's not a payoff, that's inflation cosplaying as a solution. Could America just not pay? Refuse? That's called a default, and it would be the financial equivalent of the sun calling in sick. Treasuries anchor the price of basically everything on Earth. Break the anchor and every boat drifts. No serious person wants to run that experiment. Here's America's actual cheat code: the dollar is the world's reserve currency. Global trade, oil, savings, panic, it all runs through dollars, so the world keeps needing treasuries almost no matter what. Economists call it exorbitant privilege. Everyone else calls it main character energy. So what's the real danger? Not a repo man at the White House door. It's quieter, an auction where buyers shrug and demand higher interest to keep lending. Borrowing costs creep up, the interest bill compounds, and the comfy couch starts smoking. Slowly. That's how this stuff actually breaks. There are only 4 doors out of a debt pile this size. Grow the economy faster than the debt. Inflate it away quietly. Raise taxes. Or cut spending. Every country in history has picked some mix of these 4. America, so far, has mostly picked door number 5, later. What does all this mean for you? 3 things. Interest rates stay under pressure, so borrowing costs more. Taxes drift upward over time, someone pays the meter. And inflation is forever tempting as the quiet exit. The debt never knocks on your door. It just seeps into your prices. So, America owes $40 trillion, mostly to itself and its own citizens, pays $1 trillion a year for the privilege, and the world keeps happily lending anyway. Debt is a tool, until it becomes a treadmill. The hedgehog is keeping one eye open. You probably should too.